Hello everybody, you're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain. This is the weekly radio show where we chat about the local arts news. We head over to the Rhylight Zone for a short story and or some poetry. We catch up with a different guest each week, and we head over to the Ilk Shed to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for a weekly album review. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeated on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. You can also find us on Facebook if you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, and you can email me here at the studio on dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. So this week we're going to be chatting to David and Alice Baker. They are two runners who I know through Vegan Runners, and they are also activists raising money and awareness about motor neurone disease. We'll get to all of that a little bit later on, but before we do that, we're going to head over to the Rhylight Zone for the final port of The Black Knight of Manuel. It all starts with the restoration of the fort. When work started on the restoration project, the authorities drafted people in from wherever they could get them, which is how my father came to be working alongside the French and the British. I wasn't there, so I can't swear to what exactly they said to one another, but I suppose it went something like this. There's a ton of graffiti here. Yeah, I know, it goes back years. This one's got a date, 1942. That might have been my father, Zarin, or perhaps one of his friends. They were stationed here during the war. 1681? There's a lot of history here. No kidding. Fellas. What's up, Dano? Could anyone else see what I'm seeing? What are you seeing? Look over there, behind the rubble. Holy. The story of what happened next was passed down from my grandfather, Maura, and has become something of a family legend. According to Maura, the ragtag bunch of Maltese and English workmen saw a knight watching them work. That's right, a knight. Grandpa Maura said he was dressed in a full set of battle armour that was painted a black so dark that it would have had Anish Kapoor in tears. It had taken them a while to notice him, because he'd been standing in the corner of a dark, cavernous cellar, watching silently as the men shovelled broken bricks into wheelbarrows or swept dust and dirt into dustpans. The Black Knight of Manuel, for that's who it was, had the white cross of the Order of St. John above his heart on his breastplate, as well as on the large shield that was slung across his back. He was holding a bastard sword in his hands, with the pommel towards the heavens and the tip digging into the ground. His great helm hid his eyes, although there was the faintest glint in the darkness as the light from one of their torches reflected from the Black Knight's black pupils. He was watching them while they worked. According to my grandfather, the men did what any sane men would do. They fled, hightailing it away from the lazaretto and towards the docks, where their supervisors caught up with them and docked them a day's wages. The Black Knight isn't like the other ghosts. He was the only one to have been seen by multiple people, and on multiple different occasions. My grandfather's sighting was just the first. As work continued, more of the workmen said that they saw him, and a priest was brought in to bless the site. Sure enough, he carried out the blessing and spent the day and part of the following night with the workmen, only to ditch his robes and swim back to the city in the early hours, telling anyone who'd listened that the stories were true and that Manuel Island was cursed and plagued by devils. More of the locals visited the island, with one or two amateur historians pointing out that the Black Knight looked a great deal like Grandmaster Manuel de Vilcana, the guy who'd ordered the building of the fort 300 years ago. Now, you're probably wondering how they knew what he looked like. I know I did when my father first told me this story. He answered my question without a word by taking me on a public tour of the President's Palace, where a painting of the old Grand Master still hangs proud on the opulent walls, staring balefully out at us mere peasants as we go about our business. But let's get back to the ghost of the Black Knight, who continued to make unexpected and unannounced appearances in the ruins of the old fort. No one knows what he wanted or why he suddenly started to appear. The best guess that I ever heard came from the workmen, who say they found a crypt beneath a chapel in the fort. Of course, it doesn't take a genius to know that it's a bad idea to disturb the bones of the dead, but by all accounts, the Vandals had beat them to it. There wasn't much left of the chapel, and the remains of those who'd been buried there had been scattered throughout the ruins. That included the bones of Charles-François de Mondion, the architect who'd been instrumental in the fort's design. The altar and reliefs bearing the crucifix and a depiction of the souls in purgatory were also damaged. Apparently, Grandmaster de Vilcana wasn't too happy. The Black Knight of Manuel continued to make sporadic appearances when he was least expected, a state of affairs that carried on for the best part of a decade until the renovations were completed. The brief was extended to cover the crypt and the chapel, which were restored to their former glory. The last sighting of the Black Knight came the night before the first mass was carried out at the newly refurbished chapel. Or at least, the last sighting for a while. You see, the Black Knight started reappearing in the 80s, but this time the old-timers knew exactly where to look. A group of workmen, which included my father, made their way into the crypt and found that it had been vandalised again. We never did figure out who was behind the damage, but I doubt it was a local. The locals weren't that stupid. The Black Knight of Manuel never seemed threatening, although he didn't exactly look friendly. For most of us, it was reassuring to know that he was there and that he'd raise his armoured head from time to time. He was like the Maltese army. It's nice to know that they're there, but you wouldn't want them round for dinner. As far as I know, the crypt has been protected since those last appearances and the Black Knight has never returned, but it can only be a matter of time. After all, the Lazaretto is being renovated and the fools behind the plans have decided to bulldoze the crypt and build over it. Perhaps the Black Knight will make them change their minds before it's too late. Or perhaps he'll bow down to the inevitable and let them build. That was the final part of The Black Knight of Manuel by myself, Dane Cobain. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound.
Mustang Sally, think you better slow your Mustang down. That's right now, baby. Mustang Sally now, baby. Alright, think you better slow your Mustang down. Your flat feet down on the ground. Now listen, all you wanna do is ride around, Sally. Ride, Sally, ride. All you wanna do is ride around, Sally. Ride, Sally, ride. All you wanna do is ride around.
was Straight 8 with their version of Mustang Sally. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for us to be joined by this week's guests now, who are runners and activists raising money and awareness about motor neuron disease. We have the Bakers. We have David and Alice Baker.
So the first question is one that I ask everybody. It's sort of my traditional opening question. You may or may not have an answer. We'll see. It's what was the last book that you read and what did you think about it?
I'm halfway through one. Can I cheat and give you that one?
You can.
So it's A Prayer for Owen Meany by Dave. Help me out.
John Irving.
John Irving. And I'm reading it because Dave recommended it. It's one of his favourite books. I'm halfway through. It's a little heavy going, but I'm persevering. And Dave?
Yeah, they're good books. John Irving books. They're very quirky, aren't they?
Yeah.
American, all set in sort of New Hampshire area. The last book I read, well, I'm actually rereading all my Tintin books. So I'm a bit of a Tintin fan, and I'm rereading all my favorite books. So I'm chronologically going through the Tintin books. So I'm on The Broken Ear, which is about the 6th or 7th of the Tintin canon.
Cool. Awesome. Well, actually, I'm going to ask these questions a little bit out of order because obviously, mostly I want to chat to you about MND, about your blog, and also about vegan runners. But David, you're a DJ, and aren't you DJ Tintin?
I am. Yes. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what kind of formats and what kind of gear do you use to DJ with?
It's all vinyl. I kept all my vinyl from the 70s and the 80s. So, and I've been adding to it ever since it's sort of the last sort of 10 years when vinyl's come back in. So, I've got a couple of decks and a mixer, and I DJ probably 2 or 3 times a month now on the Isle of Wight and in Southampton.
Awesome. And obviously, just before we started the call, you mentioned you were born in High Wycombe. So, whereabouts were you born? And do you have any memories?
I was born in 1966 in Merrydown, at the top of the hill there. But we moved away when I was 4 years old. My dad got a job on the Isle of Wight at Plessy's on the Isle of Wight as an engineer. So we all moved to the Isle of Wight. So we used to go back to Wycombe for, to see my nan and granddad and for big football games, if there was any top big games that Wycombe were playing in those days. So, and I follow Wycombe Wanderers now because they're obviously now a league team and doing very well.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. It's funny because sometimes this show gets bumped around because if Wycombe are playing on a Wednesday evening, then I'll get moved to a Tuesday or something like that so we can have our live commentary as well. So
brilliant.
Cool. So obviously, as I say, I want to chat to you about MND. Could you tell us just what MND is and tell us about your experience with it sort of to date?
So I was diagnosed July 23, so just over a year ago now, and it's pretty hard to come to terms with, obviously, but we have really, and we've got on with it, and we're doing as much as we can while we can. So we're very busy. We've got lots of lovely things that we do and are still doing, and lots of really good things planned for as long as I'm able to do that. So my legs are getting weaker and my arms are getting weaker, but my speech and my swallowing, my breathing at the moment is fine. So we're enjoying life at the moment.
I mean, if people are familiar with Rob Borrow, he's the most famous person recently to have had motor neurone disease. I guess a lot of people are also familiar with Stephen Hawking, which is also a very famous person who had it, but he did live for a very long time. Whereas motor neurone disease really is a very quickly progressing terminal illness. So you are looking at, I think half the people die within the first year, and then life expectancy is sort of 2 to 3 years. So it is a very rapidly progressing disease. So in the last year alone, Dave really is not walking much at all these days, if only a couple of steps, and in the house sort of shuffling with a Zimmer frame. So I mean, last year he was still running. So just to give you a bit of context about what MND actually does to you, and obviously it does affect your hands. You can have it start in your mouth, so it can affect your speech first, which is what happened to Rob Burrow. And then it sort of affects your breathing and swallow, or it can start in the limbs. So David has spinal onset, so it started in the limbs, in the legs, in the hands, and then the sort of speech, the swallow and the breathing are last. So Dave has got a little bit of a croaky voice. He's had that looked at, and he's got a little weakness in his vocal cords. And his breathing tests, he's still breathing in the normal range, but it is sort of decreasing a little. And his cough function is still in the normal range, but it does decrease every time we go. So he will lose some function in his diaphragm, so coughing and breathing will become difficult. And then the swallow, so obviously all the muscles in the mouth that help you chew and swallow will become weaker, which affects your talking and swallowing. So at some point Dave will need help with his breathing, and he'll have to be fed through a tube. But at the moment he's still enjoying food, and there's no issue with the swallowing so far. So we're hoping that stays quiet for a little while longer.
Yeah. Well, and who are sort of some of the organizations that help to support, both sufferers and their families?
Yeah, there's a few charities actually. I mean, the main one is obviously the MNDA, the Motor Neurone Disease Association, and they get most of the sponsorship, and they do great work, research and obviously looking after patients and families affected by it. But we've been made aware of a couple of other smaller charities that do really good work as well. In fact, one of them, Challenging MND, gave us a very big grant, didn't they, for our buggy, our running buggy that we use now.
You'll probably want to come on to that at some point, Dane.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was £2,000 they gifted towards that expensive bit of kit. But the MNDA, the local branch, we use all the time. We have the local support group, and they pay for memory making trips and counselling. The MNDA paid for Dave to do his voice banking, so his voice is in an app now. They lent us a laptop to do that, and they give us grants. They give us grants because Dave's at home and he feels the cold now. They give us grants to help with our heating bills, quality of life grants. So if you need a piece of equipment, they would help you with that. So that they paid for us to write our wills. So lots of things that they help with on a very practical level. And we have a visitor, MNDA visitor. So she comes out sometimes to see us, just to sit with us and talk. She just passes on some knowledge to us. So the MNDA have been fantastic. We would struggle without them, to be honest.
Yeah. And didn't you, David, make a mixtape to raise some money for one of the organizations?
Yes.
Can you tell us
that was
about
brilliant.
that, please?
So I was involved in lots of bands on the Isle of Wight, and since I've moved over in Southampton as well. So I was given the opportunity. A friend of mine actually runs a cassette production record company via vinyl and cassette, because actually cassettes are actually making, strangely enough, are making a bit of a resurgent comeback as well. So I was lucky enough to, I've got lots of contacts with lots of bands, and I think it was 20 different artists of all different types of music from Southampton and the Isle of Wight, and they all donated songs. And so we released it as a physical cassette with a free download for people who don't have cassette players. and we sold them off for 15 quid a time, and we've raised hundreds of pounds now with that.
Fantastic. Awesome. So Alice, you mentioned the buggy that you got. I mean, so obviously I want to chat to you about running. I guess, can we start with talking about vegan runners and asking, how long have you been a member of Vegan Runners, and why did you join?
So we both went vegan on the same day, and we both joined Vegan Runners on that day. And we really wanted to join Vegan Runners. I'd seen quite a few at Park Run. Our local Park Run is Southampton, which is the second biggest park run in the UK.
Right.
So you'll always see a vegan runner up there. And I really loved the kit. Just thought they looked really cool. So we did agree that we would join on that day, which was the 15th of May, 2018. So over 6 years ago now. And our little group, Hampshire Vegan Runners, which also incorporate Wiltshire and Dorset, are just the best group of people. We have a WhatsApp chat that you have to mute because it just pings all day long. It's absolutely brilliant. We love our friends in Hampshire Vegan Runners so much. They're so supportive, and we're always meeting up and having lots of fun with them.
Awesome. And Alice, you were on what was it, ITV the other day for that amazing sounding marathon that you ran. Can you tell us about that?
That was crazy. That was the UK's first ever underground marathon, 91 laps of a Portsmouth underground bunker. I'd kept it a little quiet because I wasn't very fit for it, but I'd also done a couple of other events by them, Sussex Trail events that do crazy marathons. And I'd run around the Bovington Tank Museum. That was 47 laps. I've done that 2 years in a row at night time. And this one, the tunnels, I mean, it was dark, it was wet, it was damp, it was slippery. I fell over. It went on and on and on, but got it done. And in a very select few people that have achieved an underground marathon in the UK. So proud, but still sore.
Yeah, I can imagine. Awesome.
You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. I'm here in conversation with David and Alice Baker, and this is Off Party with When You're Around.
Late night, lost in your eyes, make sure nobody's around, nobody inside. And when I surround you and hold you, you're mine. About time, but I'm not with you tonight. I want what's yours, but you're taking what's mine. Slipping by your house, nothing on my mind, just taste of your mouth. But if I could turn back time, I'd try. But I'm just the man.
That was When You're Around by Off Party. You're listening to The Art Show on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time for me to be rejoined in conversation now by this week's guests, who are David and Alice Baker.
And you've talked a little bit about how MND has affected your running, David. And obviously it's affected yours as well, Alice, in terms of now you use the Bakermobile. So can you tell us a little bit about that, and maybe talk to us as well about the differences between, you know, solo running versus running with the buggy?
Yeah, definitely. So the buggy is the same one that Rob Burrow was pushed in at the Leeds Marathon, and Dave was actually diagnosed 2 months after that happened, when those sort of famous scenes that everyone remember of Kevin picking his mate up, carrying him over the finish line. That was May last year, and Dave was diagnosed in July. But I said to him, like, I really want to push you around when you can't run anymore. So we looked it up, found the company, which are actually very close to us. There's only one company in the UK that make those chairs, called Delicom. So they are very expensive, but as Dave said, we got some grants from the MNDA and Challenging MND, and I have to say that the rest of the money that was paid towards it actually came from vegan runners who
amazing
generously donated. Some people here and there donated to cover the rest of the costs, because they're amazing people, obviously. So the first time we went out, I think I just sort of pushed Dave walking just to get used to the steering and you know, the curbs and stuff. And then the first time I ran with it, I think the biggest thing that I noticed was the amount of strength that you need in your arms and shoulders. Which sort of sounds obvious, but I just assumed it would all be in the legs. And I have never ever trained my arms ever. I have like noodle arms. So when I was pushing Dave, I was like, this is really hard. So Dave's very light. He's very slender, but him and the buggy combined are about 80 kilos. So you definitely feel it. But I have to say, when I first took Dave to Park Run at Southampton, I couldn't push him up the hills. And I've since managed to push him up the whole way 3 times now, which I'm very proud of. So I'm obviously getting a bit fitter.
And we've also done the Great Bristol 10K and the Great Glasgow 10K.
The Great Scottish Run. So and in pretty decent time, I'm very proud. I pushed Dave around at the Great Bristol Run and the Great Scottish Run in a very similar time. It was about 1 hour 1 minute 101. So I think one was 101, one was 102. But I'm very proud of that, because I think you know, a lot of people actually run on their own in that time, and I ran pushing Dave up.
She's a machine.
Cool. And I wanted to ask you, you know, speaking of vegan runners and the way they've helped to support you guys, what are the Baker socks, and how does it feel for you guys when you see people wearing them?
Oh, Dave, you can take this one.
Oh, it's lovely. It's amazing. So originally we bought each other a pair of these stripy, they're just rugby socks, stripy green and black socks, because they would go with the kit. For Christmas, we just bought each other a pair and started wearing them. But since my diagnosis, people have worn them sort of in tribute to me, and they've become well known now. And in fact, the vegan runners sell them via their merchandise, and you know, and some of the money goes towards animal sanctuaries. So we see, it's lovely, you know, to see people at park runs and in photos wearing the Baker socks, and it's very humbling. It's very nice.
Even abroad sometimes, when we look on the Facebook and everyone's posting their runs, even people have been wearing those socks abroad, and we're just like, can't believe people are wearing them for David. It's just such a great thing. You just really feel the love. And we always comment, oh, look at your socks. It's such a nice thing for people to do, that, you know, there's not really much people can do to help us, especially people, you know, we don't know or far away, but just wearing the socks just makes us feel so loved. And it's really nice. Yeah.
Well, and I was going to ask you as well, kind of related to that, how do you guys keep motivated during the tougher times? What kind of keeps you going?
Well, there are bad days, but we sort of get through them really and get over it quite quickly, don't we? I mean, the thing is, we've got so many friends, and I've got a big family, and I genuinely do feel loved by so many people, and as I said earlier, we got so many things planned, so many lovely things that we're doing. We're very busy every weekend, and I think the bad days are few, aren't they?
Yeah, I think David sets a tone, and luckily he's the ever optimist. He's just very cheerful, and looks on the bright side all the time, and always has been like that. And I think that makes it easier for me to deal with, because he's very accepting. He's not angry about it, because there's no point. It's just a waste of time. We don't sort of do all this why me. I mean, we do sometimes, but we move past it pretty quick, because it's happening, and we can't change it. So the best thing to do is just get on with it and make the best of what we do have. And I think if we just continue to try and do all these nice things, and our diary is literally jam-packed. We hardly get time to think about it, to be honest. Just keep busy and positive.
Well, and speaking of your jam-packed diary, so I wanted to ask you about a couple of events in particular. So you mentioned the Great Bristol Run and the Scottish one as well. Those were for the 20th anniversary celebrations for vegan runners. What are some of your highlights of the 2 weekends?
Well, Dave was DJing at one of them. The Bristol one, Dave was actually DJing. That was great, wasn't it?
That was great.
Yeah,
we had a whole great weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think for us, it's just the food, friends, seeing people that we don't see a lot of. I mean, Dave and I love park run. We're absolutely hooked on park run. So if there's ever an opportunity to go to a different park run, we'll be there. I mean, we live in Southampton, which is the furthest point away from Scotland, but we still went because we really wanted to just experience the whole weekend. And we love a race. And Dave even did a bit of the Ceilidh at Scotland. Nice. He managed a bit of Scottish dancing.
Yeah,
it's just great fun. We just love to see everyone and just hang out with like-minded people. And the food is always a big seller, I reckon.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask as well about Vegan Camp Out. I suppose it's similar for you guys. It's the food and the people. So maybe what were some of your favorite food places from Vegan Camp Out this year?
Oh no, what did I? So I'm gluten-free as well. So sometimes I'm on a bit of a struggle bus with that. But at Camp Out, it was the options were absolutely galore. And one of the things I had, which was really nice, was like a kind of Buddha bowl type thing. However, I do love junk food as well. So I'm trying to think if there was something in particular. Do you remember?
We found that lovely beer as well.
We found some, it's not a food item, but it was this alcohol-free, gluten-free vegan beer. And we drank so much of it. We were just cracking these cans all the time. Must have looked like alcoholics, but we couldn't stop drinking it. I mean, it was alcohol-free. It was lovely.
Awesome. Cool. Okay. Couple more things just to end on. One of them I want to chat to you about is your blog, MND Can Get in the Sea. What can you tell us about that? What kind of things do you write about, and where can people find it?
So you can either find it through my Facebook page, if anybody wants to be friends with me on Facebook or Instagram. But you can just search for it online. Just look for MND Can Get in the Sea. And it's either it's a weekly or sometimes fortnightly blog that is very honest. So, we don't shy away from the problems I'm going through, but we also make it fun as well. So it's funny and it's sad and it's just real, really. And we've how many views have we had now?
It's over 40,000, and you'd be amazed. We post the blog, I'll look at the stats, and in half an hour it's been read in 10 different countries. It gets a lot of traffic. I'll just say as well, if you can search for it on Google, because it's a big enough blog now where you should be able to find it. But I also on Facebook, all the posts I make about the blog, I use the hashtag MND Can Get in the Sea. And they're all public posts, which you can find without having to be friends with either of us. If you just put hashtag MND Can Get in the Sea. Same on Instagram as well. I post there. But yeah, it's a Google blog. So you should be able to find it. Or if you want the link, I'm sure Dane can pass it on somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very honest, lots of photos. It's a bit like a diary. There's a lot of emotional stuff in there. Sometimes people read it, so it made them cry, but it makes them laugh as well. It is like David said, it's just honest. It's just, what are the realities of living with a terminal disease, and a terminal disease that's actually very hard to live with because it takes your mobility, and it's just literally that's life. It's just our life. What are we going through? And I think it's good for people to know what we're going through, because it's that typical thing. How are you? I'm fine. But actually the blog might tell you a little more.
Yeah.
Awesome. And the last question, so I normally ask people what's next for you and where can people follow you to find out more. I suppose in your case a lot of it is sort of taking it day by day, but as you say, your calendar is pretty full, so maybe give us a preview of the next sort of few months, and where people can kind of follow you to stay up to date.
We've got a few races booked in. So we're going to be doing the Eastleigh 10K. We're doing the Turkey Trot in December, which is in Southsea. So all the vegan runners are going to be doing the anti-turkey thing, where we're going to have some slogans about eating tofu. So we're going to do that.
The Tofu Trot, they should rename it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I think if enough of us turn up, we'll probably kick up a bit of a fuss there. And we also just been invited to do the Vitality 10,000 in London, which is the 10K. So we're going to do that with Dave in the buggy. It's quite hard to plan too far because we don't know about Dave's sort of mobility moving forward, traveling and stuff like that. But we do have races booked in. And I guess the biggest life hurdle that we've got coming up is we're having our house renovated. So Dave's going to be living downstairs. We're having some work done to have a downstairs bedroom and a wet room put in. So we've got a lot of house renovation coming up. But yeah, what else have we got booked in, Dave?
Well, we got the normal sort of weekend things where we sort of visit museums or theatres or football. You go to football games, to gigs and stuff. So
relatives, we visit the island all the time because Dave's relatives live there. So there's lots of trips to the island. And just the usual, everything. lots of stuff.
Lots of park runs, I'm sure, as well.
Loads of park runs. We're at park run as much as we possibly can. I've beat my record this year. I've done over 40. I didn't quite manage to get to 50, but I should be 48, I think, by the end of the year, which is a new personal best for me.
Big thank you to David and Alice Baker for joining me. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host, Dane Cobain. And it's time, and this is Jazz DeLorean with You Can Do Anything.
Rolling round the country on an overdrive, picking up the silver that I spy. Well, there's more tears in my jeans than holes in my heart. I'm a wandering, lonesome kind of guy. You can do anything, you can do anything, anything at all. If you want to be with me, but rather not be seen with me, I don't mind at all. Sleeping in a phone box with the postcard stars. I had a minor fallout with the law. Well, there's more fear in your eyes than the hunger to love. Sit down, I'll tell you all the things I saw. Oh yeah, here we go. You can do anything, you can do anything, anything at all. If you want to be with me, I thought it was pretty good.
That was Kinsakurai by Rob Full Stop, and before that we had You Can Do Anything by Jazz DeLorean. You're listening to The Archer on 106.6 FM Wickham Sound. I'm your host Dane Cobain, and it's time for us to head over to the Ilk Shed now to catch up with Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review.
Bill Bailey, the ultimate collection ever. I was given this CD by someone I hardly know, presumably because I was the only person he knew that would like it. Often the best insights into how a work of art works can be found in parody. I once had a set of Shakespeare fridge magnets which allowed you to move around Shakespearean words. It took very little effort to arrange them in an order that seemed to produce both profundity and comedy, but with almost no original artistic worth. Bill Bailey knows how to get to the essence of the musical performers he is mimicking. This has the effect of making everything he does recognisable enough so you get the joke, and that allows him to then take the observation further, often to the point where you may hear something you may have never noticed before. His parody of Richard Clayderman Plays Three Blind Mice is definitely an insight into how that faux classical easy listening muzak is contrived. His parody of Philip Glass playing Pop Goes the Weasel captures the obvious mechanical arpeggios of Glass, but also he purposefully drops a note. Bill Bailey makes this funny by making it obvious, but I will now have to listen to Philip Glass much more carefully. It works particularly well with his Billy Bragg impersonation, which not only copies his voice and songwriting style, but also his political lyrics. He performs these parodies without being particularly mean, though he does have Chris de Burgh choose a harp sound because it reeks of vanity. His Tom Waits Sings Old MacDonald Had a Farm is another piece of brilliant observation. There are parodies of War of the Worlds theatrical pieces, progressive rock with his Leg of Time suite, and he parodies those Ebony and Ivory black and white type songs in a song about the zebra. It is one of those postmodern things that makes fun of the thing while also supporting it. Leg of Time is mostly a bit like Jethro Tull, but it has a Cockney interlude, probably to mock Genesis. He seems to have a thing about Cockneys. There is a piece that demonstrates the influence of the Cockney Chas and Dave pub piano style on classical music, such as the "Have a Banana" included in Grieg's Piano Concerto. There is also a medley of well-known rock songs done in the Cockney style. His cool jazz version of the Doctor Who theme with walking upright bass backing a schoolboy French narrative always makes me laugh. Probably because the French is so easy to understand for an Englishman. It is called Dr. Key. Le Capitaine des Daleks, il s'appelle Davos. I have seen much of this on 8 out of 10 Cats Does Countdown, never mind the Buzzcocks, and live on YouTube and TV clips. Bill Bailey, the ultimate collection ever. Muddy Waters, Chicago Blues, a blues collection CD I bought from the Cancer Research charity shop in Chesham. McKinley Morganfield got the name Muddy Waters because as a kid he liked to play in the mud banks of the Mississippi. As a young man he moved to Chicago in search of a record company, something he could not find in the South. He was inspired by his heroes Robert Johnson and Son House, and was an early adopter of the electric guitar in blues music. He assembled a band that was made up of future legends and made music that has influenced all kinds of artists over the following decades. The Rolling Stones named themselves after one of his hits. Other English acts like John Mayall and Fleetwood Mac copied his sound, and all the great guitar legends of the rock era, Clapton, Beck, Page, Hendrix, Stevie Ray Vaughan, etc., all borrowed his licks. He also played harmonica. I have plenty of Muddy Waters' best known numbers on blues compilations. The famous songs like Manish Boy, Hoochie Coochie Man, and I've Got My Mojo Working. This CD looks like it was part of a series which probably came with a magazine. It does not have all the well-known numbers, but I did not need them. It is actually the first time I've listened to an album made up entirely of Muddy Waters. I found it refreshing to hear a true blues voice as opposed to all the copyists, twisting their normal tones to make a sound they believe sounds more bluesy. The music on this CD is much more sophisticated than you would expect, had you been exposed as much as I have to middle-class, middle-aged Englishmen of any ethnic origin playing in local blues jams. There is much more barrel house boogie piano on this CD than I would have expected. There is blues lead guitar and harmonica, but it is not always the main event. I say that as someone who found himself listening more to Stevie Ray Vaughan's piano player than was probably intended. The harmonica goes well beyond what you would expect to hear, and the rhythms vary, in places jazz and in places rock and roll. It boogies and swings and does that stop-start thing we expect from songs like Manish Boy, one of the most imitated of his originals. The surprise for me is the version of the country blues song Karina Karina, a song sung by all kinds of singers from Dean Martin to Bob Dylan. Muddy Waters, Chicago Blues.
Big thank you to Twangling Jack Ford for this week's album review. Thank you to David and Alice Baker for being this week's guests. Thank you to everyone whose music I've shared. As always, you can find us on Facebook. If you search for The Art Show on Wickham Sound, you should be able to find us. And we are repeating on Wickham Sound on Monday nights. We're on the Wickham Sound Listen Again, iTunes, Spotify, and wherever else you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a short review on your podcast platform of choice. It all helps. And you can reach out to me here if you would like to on my studio email address. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. That's dane.cobain@wickhamsound.org.uk. So I am going to leave you one last tune, and this is Hogarth's Wolf with Ms. Monagle and I. I'll catch you next week.
Become one. Become one. Become one. Become one. To become one. And that's me. And that's you. Become one. Through all the changes, we grew as one. Become one, become one, become one. To become one. Well, it's me and it's you. Become one. As one.